Hello, and welcome to Single Sound's first ever character date reveal. I am so excited to share these positive dating experiences with you all. So, in this bonus episode, we will hear from two characters sharing details of their podcast dates. First up, we have Pooing in the Patriarchy.
Hi, so good to be back. I didn't think I'd ever be back after last time. I was so mortified listening to it, but here we are. Thanks for having me.
We are back in full force with 2 dates. Can't believe it. So one with a character and one with a listener. Very exciting. Do you want to let me know how did you find dating the character, first of all?
Well, it's been a really fun and interesting process, actually. So the character, that was quite a few weeks ago now, but yeah, reached out after their episode and we had kind of 4 or 5 really good dates. One of them, which he planned beautifully. So on my episode, I went on quite a lot about how I like planning and organisation. So we had a really great date where he kind of planned it, had like an itinerary up front, like this is the time we're going here and this is the time we're going here. Took me to a comedy show because a female comedian was playing and I obviously was talking about how I'm a feminist. Shouldn't actually turn up, but it's the thought that counts.
Yeah.
So that was really good, and I know that I haven't had an experience like that from dating apps. And I think it was very much informed by the fact that I'd gone on the podcast and said all of those things. So that was really brilliant. We were able to kind of just joke around about things that I had said and that he had said on our episodes. But I think like fundamentally it allowed us to have a deeper connection much earlier on in the process. It cleared away a lot of the bullshit and a lot of the pretenses that you have up front because we already knew so much about each other.
Yeah.
And our likes and our dislikes, and we already knew that it was like quite a good match. So we were able to form, I think, a deeper connection earlier on, and we both kind of verbalized that and like recognized it. So, you know, it didn't work out in the end, but overall the process was such a positive and like refreshing experience.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, well, obviously, I mean, if we got your soulmate on date 1, that would have been groundbreaking. But I think a lot of this is we just want the experience to be like the initial dates to be positive. Like I feel like with so many with the apps, you go on a date with a complete stranger and you're sat there so uncomfortable, to be honest. Like, and that's what I wanted to try and like get away from.
And it came for me at like such a brilliant time where I was so disillusioned and so apathetic with dating apps that I had like pressed pause on everything. I basically just deleted them. And meeting people through like an organic channel has just been like a breath of fresh air. I think it's made me feel like excited about dating again.
Yeah, and that's what we want.
Yeah.
So exciting. Yay. Okay, so now let me know about the listener, because that's a bit different because you didn't know anything about him.
I didn't know anything about him, and this was probably the outcome that you most intended through the podcast, in the sense that he actually didn't know what I looked like at all.
Yeah.
The character, like, we both kind of seen pictures of each other, but with this listener, he didn't know what I looked like.
Yeah, not at all, yeah.
And I loved that because when he reached out to me, it was purely because of listening to what I had to say. And I think that was amazing. That was like the best start that could happen. His message was also really good. You get so many boys kind of like sliding into your DMs or like cringy pickup lines on apps. And it was just like a very real, authentic message, which was, hey, I listened to your podcast, really like what you had to say about this. We were really on the same page about this, and then kind of ended in a joke about something that I said.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is just, you know, I could already feel that he was like a respectful and like authentic person just from the off. And I think, yeah, the podcast facilitated that as well.
Love it.
So yeah, we've had one date. It was really great. I turned up about 5 minutes late, which is a bugbear of mine. I can't stand being late, and I can't stand when other people are late. So I was feeling a bit flustered. and I had turned up and he had already ordered the drink from the podcast.
Love that.
I know.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know. That's amazing.
I told you there'd be some nuggets that
Yeah.
So
you had, what was it, like it was so specific.
It's a really specific,
It was like
double gin and tonic with slim lime tonic and a splash of lime cordial. And it was there in all its glory in this lovely glass when I turned up. And the other really nice thing was that he said he'd never had that kind of concoction before, like with all those specific elements. So he had ordered it for himself so we could like have the experience together.
Why is that like my favourite thing? Oh, that's the best thing I've heard all day. Maybe a week.
But it's so funny because it's such a small gesture.
Yeah.
But it came directly from the fact that he had listened on the podcast.
I can't get over how thoughtful that is.
Exactly. I think he is like a thoughtful person.
Yeah.
But that was really nice.
That
so
is-
top tip for all you men listening.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like lots of people have mentioned drinks as well. So if you do want to write in about a character, you can incorporate that easily. Like, yeah, I love that.
Also, I guess we had like a bit of a joke around the fact that I wanted someone I could make TikToks with.
Oh, yeah.
And he's really into making TikToks. So
Oh,
we were
fun.
actually going to make a TikTok on the first day. And we were chatting kind of too much, so it didn't happen. But yeah, we were going to make TikToks and things like that, just picking up on comments that I had made. Particularly like we were connecting around like smell and being really sensory and being like clean and organisers. All the things that when I listened back, I was like, I sound insane. He was like, no, I really liked that about you. And then we were kind of connecting over. So I think the podcast gives you a lot of like material to work with.
Yeah.
That's outside of just the small talk of
The standard, like, what do you do
What
for a
do you
living?
do?
Yeah.
So really like that. He did make an interesting comment, which was that the dynamic was slightly off because he knew so much about me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about him. Like I knew some things because we had chatted for a bit before the date, but I think that's something to bear in mind. And that I will definitely bear in mind if, I got another date from the podcast, which is they do know a lot more about you. So how do you make them kind of feel comfortable and how do you bring them up to the same sort of level?
Yeah. I see the imbalance might be you'd be tempted to ask them lots of questions. And then when you have a story to share, they're like, oh, I know.
I said something and he was like, yeah, I know, you spoke about it on the podcast. I was like, I can't remember. But yeah, like overall, really good experience and definitely, the podcast had a lot to do with that.
Love it. Fab.
And next, we have Adventures at Cafe Sol.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Long time no see.
No, I know it's been a while.
So you got a date from the podcast.
I did get a date from the podcast. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting to actually get a date off the back of... Well, firstly, I mean, it is quite new as well, but also, I mean, you heard the things I said. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that anyone heard that and was like, yeah, I actually want to take her out for a drink. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. It was cool.
Yeah, it's nice. I remember when I messaged you and you were like, no way. I think actually I started it with, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah. The faith you had in me getting a date was like, okay, thanks, Katie. Yeah, it was a shocking message, but exciting.
So when he did message, what was the message like?
So he reached out on Insta. It was a little bit like, oh yeah, I think you probably, I mean, he knew that you'd kind of given me a heads up.
Yeah.
But it was like a really good first message. It was like, I'm trying to remember now specifics, but he really basically you can tell that he was listening, which is, always a good start.
Yeah.
And like incorporated like little bits and bobs from the podcast into like his first message.
Cute.
It was kind of like an opener of like, this is what we would do if I took you on a date kind of thing.
Love that.
Jaeger bombs were obviously mentioned.
Yeah, great.
Didn't go to Cafe Sol though, but
Yeah, I mean, well, you probably thought you'd been there enough.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe you wanted to be a bit more original.
Exactly, yeah. Probably not a first date location, really, is it?
Maybe not.
But Jaeger bombs were had. So yeah, the first message was really cute.
That's nice. Did he say it made him laugh?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He did say he laughed. I think he said he laughed out loud on the commute or something along those lines.
Cute.
So,
That's nice.
so glad I'm putting a smile on people's faces during their commute, if nothing else.
Yeah. Quality entertainment, clearly. That's fun. So when you met him, did you feel more comfortable because he knew a lot more about you than he might have done from like the app profile or something?
Yeah, so for sure. Well, it was a really weird dynamic in a sense because he obviously knew everything about me. Well, everything within that 30-minute window, but pretty much everything. But I didn't know anything really about him. And like, it was 2 weeks before we actually ended up going on the date, but we didn't really chat, which was quite nice because it like kind of opened up the opportunity to find out more about him. Yeah, I think it made it a lot easier. It gave us a topic. Like, we kind of were always referring back to the podcast and, like, talking about things I said. It was really funny, so I kind of flipped the script back on him, and I was like, right, well, go on then. What's your stop, start, continue?
Yeah.
What's your 2 truths and a lie? Like, we kind of did the podcast just between us.
That's cute.
So, yeah, if he ever comes on, I'll know all the answers now.
Yeah.
But it would make a good podcast, so maybe one to consider.
Yeah. I think he does want to come on, actually.
Yeah.
So that would be cute. Maybe we can give him a go.
Yeah.
I think he's quite an avid listener, so...
Yeah, he did say he's a big fan. Like, we also got into, like, the topic of discussion of other people on it. Both guys and girls. Like, we both listen every week. So, yeah, it felt a bit like a blind date because it's not like I didn't know anything about him, but then it kind of felt like we already had something in common, which kind of gave it grounds to go on. Which was really nice. Also, the whole entire date was, again, kind of built around what I'd been saying. So, like, I arrived and he was like, right, let's pop in and have a Jaeger bomb. So we started the day off with a Jaeger bomb, which was phenomenal. And then we went for some cocktails. So, yeah, it was just, I think the podcast really kind of helped mould the evening, basically.
Yeah, and just made that conversation easier.
Yeah, for sure.
So you didn't have to start with the dry, like, oh, what do? You could, like, weave that in.
Although I didn't know what he does. I didn't know anything. Well, I guess he didn't know what I do. That didn't come up either. But yeah, exactly. It felt a lot more organic, like natural, like actually just meeting someone organically rather than, I saw a couple of pictures of you on Hinge and now we're on a date.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, it sounds so good. So how would you rate the overall experience? Like, in summary, would you go on another date?
Yeah, I had a great experience, to be honest. We had a lovely date. If I went on another podcast, he definitely wouldn't be coming up as a bad date story. So that's definitely a win.
That is a win.
I don't think there will be a second date. We have kind of left it quite amicably, but I don't think that spark was necessarily there.
Yeah,
but
fair.
Had a lovely evening, like thoroughly enjoyed it. He's a great guy. So, yeah. As we said, maybe he'll end up on the podcast and he'll find another lucky lady. But
amazing.
As it stands, I would say it was a great experience. I think I didn't know what to expect coming on this podcast, but it was really fun.
Amazing. So you'd go on another podcast date?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if there's another nutter out there who would also want to go on a date after hearing that original podcast, then I guess I'm open to that.
Amazing. Fab, thanks for coming back on.
No worries, gal. See you later.